Hi everyone, I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you so much for joining me. Today our project is going to be some painted terracotta pots. So this is the first technique that we're going to start with. This involves using some acrylic paints and any type of terracotta pot that you have on hand. You can use the little tiny ones or bigger pots. Full-size pots are fine too. You're going to use a fair amount of paints. Typically I like to use 3 colors. I feel like it ends up giving you the best results, but you can use any number of colors that you want or whatever you have on hand. So to get started, I'm making sure that my work surface is covered with a lot of newspaper. These also, because you're using a lot of paints, they take a long time to dry. So you want to set up someplace that you can leave it for at least a few hours to dry. So here's my final product. In order to get that sort of a look, what I'm going to do is I start with my white. I've made sure that these paints are all very well shaken and mixed back up. And I'm going to take my white paint and I'm going to drip that around the top. And again, we're going to use a lot of paint. So I go right around the edge and then I'm going to start overlapping. So in order to get some longer drips, I can do some of these little loops. And there's no need to try to be perfect with any of this. It kind of is interesting to see how the designs turn out when you're not trying to be too careful. So I'll go through, I'll do my first layer there. And then, because green is one of my favorite colors, that's going to be my second layer. Typically, whatever my second layer is going to be the predominant color in whatever design I'm doing. This is the same technique that we use for our painted pumpkins in the fall, too. So I'm going to then take my green and layer that in. And again, I'm just kind of going around the entire outside of my pot. And the more paint you layer on there, the longer those drips are going to be. So you can see it starting to sink down the sides of the pot. And if I move that around, you can see different sides are going to look a little bit different. So you can see I didn't get as much paint on this side, so that's going to have less of that dripping effect. Then I'll take my last color and I will add some little accents of that one. And then depending on how much of that color I want to show through, I'm going to continue to add a little bit more. Now you can just leave it like this and let that drip to dry. If you want a little bit more of this marbling technique that you see here, you can take a toothpick or a skewer, like a kebab skewer, and you can run it through just that tip of that, and you can create a little bit more marbling. That'll pull up some of the bottom color up to the top. So either technique is fine. You're going to end up with a neat looking project at the end of that either way. But again, this is just that straight drip, and then this is a little bit more the marbling. One thing I want to take a second to point out is that you're going to get 2 different looks depending on which side of your toothpick you use. So if you just use the tip and you go up through, you get a very thin line like that. You still are going to be pulling up those bottom colors, which is neat on its own. But if you actually take the side of your toothpick and you run it down carefully and lightly, and you're going to kind of swirl it a little bit as you go down, you get more of that marbling because you're pulling up more of that white color from the bottom, the one that we layered on first. So you can see from that, if I go around this side a little bit more too, I'm going to get more of my marbled effect. And so I can continue to go around the rest of the pot and pull down that paint just like that. And then you'll get a different effect. So for our second technique, we're going to take some nail polish and some hot water. So a dish of hot water. You want your water level to be about as far up as you want your marbling to come on your pot. So for this one, I have a dish that's a little bit shallower than the depth of my pot. Again, the hot water is important because if you use cold water, the nail polish will sink to the bottom. It'll also dry faster. You have to work kind of quickly with this project because, again, the nail polish dries fast. And if it dries too quickly, you'll end up with just a glob of paint on your pot. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your nail polish you're going to pour it gently on top of the surface. And you can see it kind of spreads out a little bit there. So I'm trying to move fairly quickly so that I can get it before it dries. And you can use whatever colors you like here. So I'm going to use a little bit of that color and then a little bit of this for some sparkle. And I can see that it's starting to dry a little bit on the surface here. So I'm going to go ahead and try not to hesitate too much here, and I'm just going to take my pot and I'm going to dip it right in. And then when I pull it out, I have this effect going on. And once that dries, you'll have a very cool marbled layered effect. You don't want to get too much nail polish in there because it will gob up, so you want a pretty light layer on that top. And then if you wanted to do another pot after this, what you can do is shake a little bit of the excess water there, tip this one upside down to dry, and you can take a toothpick again and you can just skim the surface of your water and it'll pick up all of the leftover nail polish from the last batch, and you can keep going with that. Let these dry and then plant up whatever seeds you want in them. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Bye-bye.